We now need to deal with the unfortunate reality that Donald Trump appears to be preparing to declare an emergency in advance of the November midterm elections. Now, this sounds terrifying. This sounds authoritarian. This sounds dictatorial. It is all of those things. But I also want to mention that I'm going to need someone to kind of look me in the eye and explain exactly what that would allow Donald Trump to do without inventing any new powers, as if he's writing some authoritarian fan fiction where he gets to do whatever he wants. So I want to talk through with you how this both is a red alert concern, but also without an understanding of what exactly the president is able to do, we don't want to be scared for nothing. Now, all of this goes back to recent comments made by former Trump White House lawyer Ty Cobb. Fascinating name. If you've seen this guy, fascinating appearance as well. And Ty Cobb weighed in on Donald Trump's Thursday night prime time, to the extent that 9:15 p.m. Eastern is prime time, weighed in on Donald Trump's prime time speech and said that it is clear what the point of it is. The point of it is to officially start what we've suspected for a long time that Donald Trump wants to do, which is declare some kind of an election, some kind of an emergency in advance of the midterm election as a way to potentially shield or prevent Republicans from getting absolutely blasted into outer space by voters, which then will subject Donald Trump to maybe the most humiliating final 2 years of a presidency in 100 years, probably, maybe more. Ty Cobb said, quote, that the speech is intended to add the predicate that he needs to declare an emergency at or about the time of the elections. And Ty Cobb, of course, points to Donald Trump's attacks on voting machines, on mail-in ballots, on voter registration, saying it's all rigged, it's been rigged, all of this stuff. They've been warning about ICE agents at polling places and Donald Trump's wet dream of seizing voting equipment that goes all the way back to 2020. Now, we should take all of that very seriously, but because we want to be informed, please, we also want to think about what voting rights lawyer Mark Elias explained to us last week, which is that elections are fundamentally run by the states. And so Trump can shout emergency, but shouting emergency doesn't let him suddenly take control of every ballot box in the United States. States still run their elections. States would have to cooperate. They would need to be forced to comply or have their own authority taken away, which seems like it would be completely against the law, because the Constitution doesn't give Donald Trump any power to suspend an election, because the federal government doesn't run elections. Even if you declare an emergency, which we'll get in a moment to what that means, and what does an emergency mean? Even during a war, the president wouldn't be able to suspend elections in all 50 states. Even if he declared martial law, he would not be able to suspend elections in all 50 states. Martial law has been declared many times in American history, mostly by state or local officials, and there were still elections. Presidents didn't suddenly become dictators. Now, as far as whether people believe this is going to happen, if you look at the betting odds on Kalshi, if you kind of add it all up, roughly 62%, close to 2/3 of the country, does believe that Donald Trump will eventually declare such an emergency. So what we need to think about is how we would react and what would actually happen. What can Trump do? Trump can say, I declare a national emergency. He could do that. Trump could flood the country with conspiracy theories. He could send federal agents into communities and scare people from going to polling places. Will you be scared off? I don't think so. I certainly am not going to be scared off. His supporters could confront voters. They could confront election workers. They could get themselves into very serious trouble, activating and being deputized by Donald Trump in this way. And Republican states could also try to impose the deeply flawed Save America Act. They could, on their own, implement the voter ID and proof of citizenship rules that Donald Trump wants to implement. They could do that. Could that affect close Senate races? Yeah, it could. Could it affect Ohio, Texas, Michigan? It could. But an emergency declaration would not allow Donald Trump to seize a single voting machine. It would not allow Trump to have certain ballots discarded. It wouldn't magically create any new powers that don't currently exist. So we should prepare for illegal behavior, because that's what it would take to act on Donald Trump's hypothetical emergency declaration. But we shouldn't pretend that every illegal order is going to succeed and be followed, because states can and should refuse. Courts can and likely would intervene. Election workers can just keep counting ballots and reporting them. And federal agents and members of the military still are responsible for obeying the law. My biggest concern is not that Donald Trump's emergency declaration will do specific things. It's that it will cause chaos. And that's probably what Trump wants. Trump could create enough fear and provoke confrontations and convince millions of supporters that any Democratic victory is a fraud. And people could get hurt. Election workers could be threatened, and maybe worse. And some MAGA supporters could destroy their own lives committing crimes for a man who doesn't give a damn about them and would never take a risk for them. If Trump does cross that line from abusing power to openly trying to cancel an election, it may break MAGA, because enough of these clowns might go out and get themselves arrested. So we prepare. Mark Elias and other lawyers are doing it, but we also understand the limits of what it means to say, I declare an emergency. And it could get other people to act. We'll see how Republican governors behave and Republican secretaries of state and attorneys general, but it doesn't do anything. If and when Trump declares that emergency, it's going to be up to everybody else to decide, well, where does that put me? And hopefully, this might be naive, hopefully there are enough people out there still with some common sense that it's not going to send them into any kind of a tizzy that will affect the election. But states run elections, and Trump can shout and sign an executive order, do whatever emergency declaration he wants. It doesn't actually do anything unless the states allow it to. There are a lot of VPN companies out there, and almost all of them make the exact same promise. Trust us, your data's safe. Our sponsor, Private Internet Access, you don't have to take their word for it, because they've proven multiple times in court when authorities have asked for user logs, they don't have them. They don't have anything to hand over. Their software is open source. You do not have to trust anybody. You can verify for yourself. They have a no log policy, which really matters because the whole point of a VPN is to protect your privacy. Private internet access hides your IP address, encrypts your connection, helps to protect your data when you're at home, on public Wi-Fi, traveling, and it also lets you access content that might not be available in your region. Just a single private internet access account you can use on unlimited devices with servers in 91 countries and all 50 states, optimized for fast streaming and downloads so you are not sacrificing performance for security or privacy. It's one of those things you turn on once and just forget about it. Get an exclusive 83% off. That is just $203 a month plus 4 months free at piavpn.com/Pakman. The link is in the description.